On a cold December night in 1955, Rosa Parks took a seat on a Montgomery bus. She had taken that seat many times before, but this time she didn't stand when she was told to. That quiet moment didn't just stop a bus, it exposed a system, and it awakened a movement that would reshape the future of the United States. A 42-year-old seamstress named Rosa Parks boards a city bus. She's tired. She finds a seat in the colored section, a few rows behind the whites-only seats. This simple act, one she's done countless times before, is about to change the course of American history. But the story of Rosa Parks isn't just about one tired woman on a bus. It's a story of quiet strength, lifelong activism, and a carefully planned act of defiance that would ignite a movement. Let's rewind. Who was Rosa Parks before that fateful day? She wasn't just a random person who decided she'd had enough. Born Rosa Louise Macaulay in 1913, she grew up in the Deep South under the shadow of Jim Crow laws, a brutal system of racial segregation. From a young age, she experienced the daily humiliations of being a black person in America. Separate water fountains, separate schools, and the constant threat of violence. Her grandfather would often stand guard on their front porch with a shotgun, protecting the family from the Ku Klux Klan. These early experiences didn't break her, they forged her. Rosa was a fighter from the start. She was intelligent and driven, but had to leave school to care for her sick grandmother and later her mother. She married Raymond Parks, a barber who was also an active member of the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He encouraged her to finish her high school education, which she did in 1933, a rare achievement for a black woman at the time. Inspired by her husband, Rosa joined the Montgomery chapter of the NAACP in 1943. She became the chapter's secretary, a role she took very seriously. This wasn't just about filing papers. She investigated cases of racial discrimination and violence, documenting the brutal realities of life for black people in Alabama. She worked closely with the chapter president, E.D. Nixon, a prominent civil rights leader. For over a decade, Rosa Parks was on the front lines, fighting for justice long before the world knew her name. She even attended the Highlander Folk School in Tennessee, a center for training activists in workers' rights and racial equality. There, she learned about nonviolent civil disobedience as a tool for social change. This experience was transformative. She realized that organized, peaceful protest could be a powerful weapon against oppression. The idea of a bus boycott was already being discussed among activists in Montgomery. They were just waiting for the right moment and the right person. Which brings us back to that bus on December 1st. As the bus filled up, a white man was left standing. According to the city's segregation laws, black passengers were required to give up their seats to white passengers if the white section was full. The bus driver, James F. Blake, who, coincidentally, had kicked Parks off his bus 12 years earlier for entering through the front door, ordered Parks and 3 other black passengers in her row to move to the back. The other 3 complied. Rosa Parks did not. She later said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in." It wasn't about physical fatigue. It was a deep, soul-crushing weariness with the injustice she had fought against her entire adult life. When the driver threatened to have her arrested, she calmly replied, "You may do that." And he did. Police officers arrived and took her into custody. Her arrest was the spark that activists had been waiting for. E.D. Nixon saw the opportunity. He knew Rosa Parks. He knew she was a respectable, dignified woman with a strong moral compass and a history of activism. She was the perfect person to be the face of their protest. He bailed her out of jail and with her permission began organizing. That very night, word of her arrest spread like wildfire through Montgomery's black community. E.D. Nixon, along with other community leaders, including a young, charismatic pastor named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., called for a one-day boycott of the city's buses on the day of Parks's trial, December 5th. They printed and distributed thousands of leaflets, urging people to stay off the buses. The response was overwhelming. On December 5th, the buses that were usually packed with black workers were almost empty. The one-day protest was so successful that community leaders decided to continue it. They formed the Montgomery Improvement Association, or MIA, and elected Dr. King as its president. Thus began the Montgomery Bus Boycott. For 381 days, through rain, cold, and heat, tens of thousands of black citizens in Montgomery refused to ride the buses. They walked, sometimes for miles. They organized complex carpools, with volunteer drivers picking up and dropping people off all over the city. They endured harassment, threats, and violence. Their homes were bombed, including those of Dr. King and E.D. Nixon. Rosa Parks herself lost her job and faced constant death threats. But they did not give in. The boycott was a massive economic blow to the bus company and downtown businesses. More importantly, it was a powerful display of unity, determination, and the effectiveness of nonviolent protest. It drew national and international attention to the fight for civil rights in the United States. While the boycott raged on, the legal battle was also underway. A lawsuit, Browder v. Gale, was filed in federal court challenging the constitutionality of bus segregation. Rosa Parks's case was tied up in state courts, so she wasn't a plaintiff in this federal case, but her arrest was the catalyst for it all. On November 13, 1956, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld the lower court's ruling that segregation on public buses was unconstitutional. The boycott won. On December 21, 1956, 1 year and 20 days after Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat, Montgomery's buses were officially integrated. She boarded a bus not as a symbol of defiance this time, but as a symbol of victory, and took a seat right at the front. But the fight was far from over, and the victory came at a personal cost. Due to the threats and economic hardship, Rosa and Raymond Parks eventually had to leave Montgomery. They moved to Detroit, where she continued her work for civil rights, working for Congressman John Conyers for over 20 years. Rosa Parks' legacy is often simplified. She's painted as a quiet, accidental hero, but that narrative misses the point. She was a trained, strategic, and lifelong activist. Her act of defiance was not spontaneous. It was the culmination of years of struggle and a deliberate choice to stand against injustice. She wasn't just tired, she was prepared. Her story teaches us that change doesn't always come from the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it comes from a quiet, unshakable resolve. It comes from the courage to say no in the face of injustice and the strength to endure the consequences. Rosa Parks is rightly called the mother of the civil rights movement. Her quiet defiance on that Montgomery bus was not the beginning of her fight, but it was the beginning of a revolution that would reshape a nation. Her life reminds us that ordinary people have the power to do extraordinary things. It shows that one single principled act can inspire millions and change the world. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I do, please like, share, and subscribe for more stories of the people who shaped our history.